Welcome back to the channel. This is the Action Figure Grader, and we're going to look at recent sales for the vintage collection today, making this video a lot earlier than I prefer, but by the time you watch this, I'm sitting on the beach with my family working on my tan. So I wanted to make sure to have some content for you guys while I'm away, and we're going to start off with a very controversial one. And I apologize, I can't remember which one of you sent me a message about this one. So whoever it was, thank you for alerting me to this. I didn't highlight it while it was going on because I was in the middle of some family stuff. And the auction ended, and I meant to try and get it out as a warning to those of you that maybe were getting excited about it. So this is it's labeled unpunched foil clone Commander Cody, and you know, obviously the foil Ultimate Galactic Hunt cards did not come unpunched, so somebody's playing games here. And it's weird because this seller has like 6,800 transactions, 100% positive feedback, and they might have gotten this in a collection and they're reselling it. They don't even know that it's fake. But you know, looking at it from the front, it's like, wow, that does look unpunched. But it's when you go on the back that you can really see that there's a different color shade for the punch versus the rest of the card. And it's also got a lot of wear, you know, especially in the upper left-hand side of that hanger tab. So clearly this was added after the fact. I mean, give me a break. But, you know, it was at auction. It sold for $209.50. And which is, you know, again, it's not like you terribly overpaid, but it is an overpay, right? Because I decided to go ahead and pull up other foils that have sold recently. Here was a really clean looking one that sold for $100, and then one went even cheaper. It sold for $78 in an auction. Now this one did have a scuff by the warning label in the upper right. You can see that scuff there. Otherwise, it looked pretty decent. I mean, it looked pretty okay to me. So yeah, there's that scuff. That's a nice close-up of the scuff right there, if I could get my thing to cooperate. There it is. So it's got some kind of spooge or something on there. So this one clearly is not an unpunched, okay? To my knowledge, unless you got some kind of rare pre-production item, all of the foil Ultimate Galactic Hunts came unpunched. So this punch was added after the fact. So just got to be careful out there and watch out for the scumbags. Here is an Obi-Wan. Now, an interesting thing about Obi-Wan is that this is VC16 Obi-Wan, the Revenge of the Sith version, which is an awesome card. It's an awesome card. This one was unpunched, and it was listed for $250, sold for $220. This unpunched has really held its value. We talk all the time on the channel about how the vintage collection, you know, you can make an argument that it's pulling in collectors right now because the prices have come back down to earth. And you know, the number of vintage collections, especially TVC 1.0, where the prices have dropped significantly and brought folks back in recently. I hear it all the time on the channel from comments like, yeah, I quit collecting for a while because it got too expensive. I couldn't afford it. And now, you know, oftentimes if you wait like 2 or 3 months, you can get the new releases for MSRP or less. So, and now with TVC 1.0, a lot of the early TVC, they've come way back down in price. Now, all that being said, Obi-Wan has not, right? This one's really held its value very well. And to get over $200 consistently for an unpunched VC16, that's been the norm. We've seen a lot of those that have gone in that price point. Now, can you get it for less than that in an auction? Probably, you know, probably 175-ish. But, you know, I've seen enough data points to know and to be able to be comfortable to say that an unpunched VC16 has really held up well. And, you know, another one that's held up well, obviously, is Slave Leia. This one continues to hold its value. This was a punched U.S. card, Return of the Jedi, with the prototype Fed offer, and that one sold for $235. And then we had a Revenge of the Jedi prototype Fed offer. So this is the retail release with the paperwork inside the blister. Unpunched, that one sold for $300. So, and this was the third one that this seller had, and all three of them sold at $300. Here was one, I don't know what's going on with this one. So this one sold for a 110, and the card is beat to hell. I mean, look at it. It's got all kinds of creasing to this Grand Moff Tarkin. And I'm assuming that someone's going to open it, but if you're going to do an opener, why are you spending 110 bucks for it? So that's what it says it sold for, though. So it sold for 110. That's what you would have to pay really for a near mint plus condition, unpunched VC98 Grand Moff Tarkin. So either there was a deal on this, and it was not showing up on eBay, but according to eBay, it sold for 110, which is obviously way too much to pay for a heavily creased card. Jango Fett, this one is kind of holding its own right now. This is another one that's held up fairly well, although it has come way back down in price. When it was announced that the Jango Fett reissue was going to be in that deluxe, huge, ugly box, the first issue really jumped, and it got up to like 175, maybe even 200 for an ungraded example of the U.S. card unpunched. And now it's, half that, it's $100, but even below $100. But you typically, for a near mint condition one like this, it's about 90 to $100. So that one did sell at 100. Here's that Luke Skywalker Tatooine from the Land Speeder pack-in. Interesting, this one did sell for $56 on 27 beds. I've seen a factory sealed Land Speeder lately been selling for $70 to $72. So obviously most of the value is coming from this particular pack-in of the larger deluxe style Luke Skywalker Tatooine. But this one was just for the Luke on card for $56. And then this seller had some great deals. I didn't see them. They all sold immediately, which I'm not terribly surprised by. But these were all AFA graded, the Target exclusive 3-packs, and then I've got a few others that this seller had. But these are the early ones, like from 2010, I think, somewhere in there, 2011. So these are the Target exclusive Vintage Collection 3-packs. So we had the Villain set, AFA 85, that sold for $80. You can't even grade it for that. $80 plus $10 shipping. I promise you that if you tried to send that in, once you factor in shipping to and from AFA, plus this had the 3-tier grading of, the bubble, the box, window, and figure scores, so instead of the modern tier. So this is, much more expensive to do than just the modern grading on a scale of 1 to 10. So he had the Villain set that sold for $80. He had the Android set that was AFA 90 that sold for $150. You can see there the 90 score. That's very tough to get these in a 90 grade. The Villain set was an AFA 85 that sold for $80. And then he had some newer ones. He had an AFA 90 Cave of Evil 3-pack with Luke, Dagobah, Yoda, and then obviously the Darth Vader, kind of alternate Darth Vader. And that one sold for $80. I mean, these are good deals on these 3-packs to get them AFA graded for these prices. And then here's that droid set. This is from 2011 also, the Target exclusive droid set. That sold for $80. So really priced to sell. And then they had an AFA 85 Plus Dr. Aphra comic set. This was an SDCC exclusive. So, I mean, you see this set sell for $75 to $85 ungraded. And to get it AFA graded, 3-tier grading for $110 shipped, that's a really awesome deal. So all of those were some amazing deals. Same seller, some crazy person sent in the Tantive 4 Corridor playset to be AFA graded. This got an AFA 80 plus. So that's the first time I've ever seen one of these AFA graded. And in all fairness, it does look pretty cool. I mean, it looks pretty awesome. The box art looks awesome. I don't think I'd bother grading it, but someone did grade it and it sold for $120 shipped. And somebody also had an AFA 85 plus SDCC exclusive Jar Jar Binks in Carbonite. That's a beauty. And that did sell. It sat for a little while, but it did sell at $1,000 plus $17 shipping. And then Disruptor had, it's a pretty well-known seller on eBay, uncirculated 9.0 Scout Trooper from the Speeder Bike pack-in. That one was, again, an uncirculated 9.0. That sold for $190. Big number there. And then this seller had a number of auctions on some graded vintage collection. This is the original issue Admiral Akbar with the Boba Fett offer. This was a punched example, and it was uncirculated 9.0. Interesting that this one was punched and uncirculated. So it means that inside the Hasbro shipper box, the hanger tab was punched out already. So, or it could have fallen out, I guess, inside the shipper box before AFA opened it. But that one sold for $180. They had an Ahsoka Tano Siege of Mandalore. There are so many different Ahsokas now. I can't keep track. This was an uncirculated 9.0 that sold for $180. HK47 Galaxy of Heroes figure. That was an uncirculated 9.25, obviously a fan channel 2-pack exclusive. That was listed for $250 and sold for $200. And then the big one was Jedi Knight Revan, the other half of that 2-pack. That one was an uncirculated 9.0 and sold for $200 as well. So lots of graded items here. I know that most of y'all don't like the graded items, but I had to make this video a little earlier than I prefer, so the data was a little sparse. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for your patience while I am away, and I'll be back soon.